absolutely shocked that episode 3 of this season was just as good as the other episodes. So you know how people say if you don't like something, don't watch it? And they say you shouldn't complain about a show, just, don't watch it anymore? Okay, so many people complained, and so many people stopped watching, and so many people said this sucks, that they got rid of Gimple and put a new showrunner, and it has made a world of difference. I cannot believe how good The Walking Dead is. I would have never thought it could get back up to this quality. So everyone that raged out, everyone that tweeted or complained online or said, Gimple, you're ruining the show, and got a new showrunner, I thank you times a million, because it's voices like yours that help changes be made. I would almost say that this season of Walking Dead is one of the best seasons of The Walking Dead I have ever seen. And that's saying a lot because there were some pretty good older Walking Dead seasons. This one played out not only as a drama, but a psychological thriller, and it dealt with so many issues. PTSD, people that have lack of sleep because of being afraid to fall asleep, which a lot of people with PTSD have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, or they don't like to stay asleep because they relive the events, or it's just a twisted nightmare like what we see with Carol. And I love that you couldn't tell what were her hallucinations and what was reality, and for you to puzzle out, even though at the end they gave us a pretty clear explanation that yeah, the walkers in the gym coming after her were led by one of the Whisperers. So in this 47-minute-ish episode, I think it was 45 if you don't include the credits, it was just this really awesome psychological thriller where you're watching someone we already love, Carol, and she's just a fucking badass, but watching how everything is becoming worse for her now that she's back home instead of being out on the boat. The image of Carol as the housewife and then all the dead children that she's lost around her was so incredibly haunting and well done. And I don't know about you, but back in my college years, I used to work a full-time and then a part-time job, and I went to school full-time, and I also volunteered and did other activities, so I wouldn't sleep a lot. Sometimes I'd go over a day without sleep, and yeah, you start to hallucinate really fucking bad. I once heard, after being up for like 36 hours, and I was wired on caffeine because I had so much work and school and all that, I literally thought I heard demons laughing and that they were going to drag me to hell. And then I fell asleep and it was fine. But yeah, when you are deprived of sleep, you can do some pretty fucking crazy things and hear and see some very crazy things. And basically this entire episode was dealing with people that were exhausted. So back in Alexandria, they were dealing with the onslaught of the dead coming over and over again in waves, and they were, imagine staying up for days on end trying to take care of wave after wave of walkers. How exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, you're fighting for your life for so many days on end. The fact that more people didn't have mental breakdowns and freak out on each other just shows how well they've adapted to the post-apocalypse. And I also like the psychological effect and how children that were raised up in the zombie apocalypse are affected by this. Judith doesn't want to sleep unless it's safe, because if it's not safe, you don't fall asleep. And she knows that because how she was raised. Now, her little brother was raised in a more stable time of the apocalypse, so he has a lot less fear than she does. And watching the generations of children and how they respond to the world and how they respond to society being built a little bit more, I think is interesting to watch. I might be in the minority there, but I think it's interesting to see the difference between the ages and where or when they grew up. Negan, I absolutely love now. I was not too impressed with Negan at first. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I hope I'm saying his name right, total, because he was in Supernatural. He was in Watchmen too, I think, as the comedian. Total hottie. I think he's a great actor, but I wasn't too enthused with him as Negan in the first couple seasons. But I think he's doing a great job now, and I absolutely love his portrayal of this Negan. It's also nice to see emotional calls to dead characters and past relationships. I feel like an issue under Gimple was they really skimmed over that, and they didn't deal with, it was just monologues and talking about how the world's different, instead of having very real emotional reactions to, I lost the love of my life. I lost my child. And them remembering that and the trauma that comes along with it. And I think they are doing a great job, at least for this season, portraying how people would deal with that level of loss and trauma. And here's the weird thing about this. I'm going to go back to PTSD and, exhaustion and all that. What I really love about this season, and it was in previous seasons too, how well they are showing mental disorders and just the psychological issues that people would end up having in these type of situations, but they aren't being overly dramatic or crass about it, which is very rare, I think, with television and movies, because they want to just up it to the 9th degree. Oh, and really quick, Carol should have definitely killed Alpha. Just fuck that. I understand Michonne's point of view, I understand Daryl's point of view, but man, just one fucking dude. She has a lot of fanatical followers, but a lot of times when you kill the cult leader, usually the next person that takes over isn't as good as the initial leader. Also, I won't get into spoilers when it comes to the comics, when it comes to that though, because that's mean. Eugene and Rosita, I think, was an interesting discussion. I think for a lot of us, if we've reached a certain age, we've had a friend who was friends with us just because they wanted to have sex with us or have a romantic relationship. And then once it's clear to them, hey, I don't want a romantic relationship with you, they kind of bounce, or they're just dicks or more mean. And I do like that Eugene took a step back and realized the only reason why I was so friendly with you and did all these things was because I was hoping we had a romantic future. And now that I realize I misinterpret that and that was never going to happen, I'm actually not a good friend. The basis of our friendship is really messed up. And the fact that he was able to acknowledge that and go, yeah, okay, were we really friends if the only thing I wanted was to fuck you? No, not really. So The Walking Dead was able to make a good point about people that are friends with you. This can be male or female. This is not specific to one gender, who just want to be with you. And then once they figure out there's no chance, they turn on you. And they're usually really aggressive and shitty. But Eugene is such a good person that he realized what he was doing. And he figured out that he wasn't the good friend. She wasn't the fucking prude bitch for not wanting to spread her legs for him. It was him who was in the wrong to try to continue a friendship just because you might have a romantic future. See, here's a good example, writers, where you can send a message without being overly preachy or condescending towards men or women. Isn't it amazing how you can get these messages across without trashing on a specific gender? I don't know why that's so hard nowadays. I don't know why we always have to trash on one or the other. It's so weird. So yeah, I also love the title of this episode, Ghosts, where they never mention the word ghosts. The guy that goes, roll credits, whenever they mention the title of the episode or the film. Or maybe it's just film, sorry. I have trouble remembering channels. It's just, I work too much. It has nothing to do with the quality of their channel or me saying anything negative about them. I swear, this is not a personal attack because that's where people always take it. I'm just not very good with YouTube stuff, obviously. Have you seen my videos? Anyways, it really did deal with ghosts. So Aaron's dealing with the ghost of Eric. Negan still deals with the ghost of his wife and obviously has emotional issues with that. Carol deals with the ghosts of the children she's lost. You know, we have the two doctors talking about the ghosts of their own experiences in combat and trauma. And we also see people dealing with their ghosts in different ways, because as human beings, we're going to deal with our emotional issues in very different ways. How I deal with tragedy might be different than how you deal with tragedy, and I think they have a pretty good representation in this season, and specifically in this episode. Now, obviously, you and I aren't in the zombie apocalypse. Unless we are, then I'm fucked. But you get what I'm saying. So this was another solid episode. I absolutely loved it. I am so shocked because years ago I was done with The Walking Dead, and watching it was a chore. It was an actual chore to watch a show in a franchise that I absolutely loved. You have to realize I watched or read the comics years before the show, and when it went so downhill, it just was terrible. It kills you inside. To now come back to this show and for it to be this fantastic is beyond my wildest dreams. So if you have not been watching this season so far, I really do recommend it. They're only on the 3rd episode. It's so good. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Like, subscribe, and come back for more videos.